asteroid belt and was
So
eventually
we're going to
captured
go
by
ahead
Mars's
and
orbit.
check out some of these
Deimos
videos.
has two
Starting
craters,
off
Swift.
with Ryan here.
Deimos is the smallest of Mars's
I'm
two
turning down the
moons
audio a little bit.
and the
I don't know if you
furthest
can even
from the
hear
mother
that, but
planet.
I will
Many
comment
believe the
on the
moon
audio
used to
just
belong to a
across the board.
surrounding
Everybody needed
asteroid
a little
belt
bit more
and was
work on the
eventually
audio.
captured by Mars's orbit. Deimos
So I know
has
this is
two
going to play it
craters, Swift and
sort of
Voltaire.
mirrored.
The craters were named
I
after
think the
two.
biggest thing I noticed on
Deimos
was
is
that
the
it was a little
smallest
dark,
of Mars's two
and I think
moons
that there's a
and the
chance that
furthest from the
this
mother planet. Many believe the
freezing up
moon
on
used
us.
to
So
belong
let's pause it and go back.
to a surrounding asteroid belt
I
and
think
was
that
eventually
this worked
captured
pretty
by Mars's
well, but
orbit.
I definitely think it needed
Deimos
some
has two
brightening up so we can get
craters,
some of that
Swift
capturing
and
in there.
Voltaire. The craters were named after
think
two authors whom speculated the moon's existence long
we talk
ago.
about the two authors who
Is
speculated
the
the moon's
smallest of
existence and the two
Mars's two
craters.
moons and the
And I
furthest
assume
from
you
the
mean
mother
these two,
planet.
but I think you
Many
just need some
believe
sort
the
of
moon used to
labeling on
belong
it.
to a
And then you
surrounding
talked about doing
asteroid
like the
belt
face
and was
overlay
eventually
on it.
captured by Mars's orbit. Deimos
I
has
kind of
two
think that's neat
craters,
the way it captures
Swift
it, but
and
I'm torn on
Voltaire.
whether I think it
The
should
craters
feel
were
more
named after two
realistic or whether I
authors
think it,
whom speculated the moon's existence
so
long
I don't know.
ago.
I think it's alright like it
Is
is.
the
So.
smallest of Mars's two moons and the furthest from the mother planet. Many believe the
So
moon
this was a
used to
little
belong.
bit confusing, this opening scene. You say Deimos is
Deimos is the smallest of
the
Mars's
smallest of
two
Mars's two
moons
moons.
and
I
the
mean, just see this
furthest
one just
from
kind
the
of
mother
dip up into the
planet.
corner there
Many
really
believe
quick.
the moon used
And
to
I think
belong
being
to
able
a
to see them
surrounding
both at the same
asteroid
time
belt
as Mars
and
comes
was
into the
eventually
picture would
captured
really
by
help.
Mars's orbit. Deimos has two craters, Swift
And then I think
Voltaire.
the Swift
The craters
and Voltaire,
were named
I think
after
there's a
two
chance that maybe
authors
this gets a little
whom
big.
speculated
We
the
start seeing
moon's
some of the
existence
pixelation
long
in
ago.
the
Is
craters.
the
So if you
smallest
can get
of
a little bit
Mars's
of a
two
crisper,
moons and the furthest from the mother planet. Many
crisper,
believe the moon used to belong to a surrounding
texture
asteroid
for that,
belt
that would be awesome.
and was
If you
eventually
can't, that's
captured by
alright.
Mars's orbit. Deimos has two craters, Swift and
think-
Voltaire. The craters were named. Many believe the moon used to belong to a surrounding asteroid belt and was eventually
I kind of feel
captured
like
by
there needs to be
Mars's
just a little
orbit.
bit more work
Deimos
on
has two
getting
craters,
Mars,
Swift
like
and
it's kind of got a little bit of a
Voltaire.
glow to
The
it.
craters were named
But it still
after
feels like
two
it needs to be able to
authors
see a little bit
whom
of
speculated
atmosphere
the
around it.
moon's existence long
And,
ago. This is the smallest
Personally,
of
I'm not sure
Mars's
that
two
I
moons
like the
and the furthest
zoom out
from
at
the
the
mother
end.
planet. Many believe the moon used to belong to a surrounding asteroid belt and was eventually captured by Mars's orbit. Deimos has two craters, Swift and Voltaire. The craters were named after two authors whom speculated the moon's existence long ago.
And that
This
one's
is
a
the
weird one for
smallest
me
of
because
Mars's
it's
two
working so
moons
well as
and
a
the
pretty
furthest from the
realistic
mother
shot.
planet.
The last shot, right? And
The
then
craters
the
were named after
moon
two
starts to kind of
authors
rotate in a
whom
different
speculated
orbit,
the
which it
moon's
probably
existence long
wouldn't
ago.
do
This
because
is
it's
the
been
smallest
twisting
of
like that for the last, 4 billion years or whatever. And so like it starts to kind of change its orbit or change its rotation, and it's probably a pretty steady rotation. And then the dart out is, I don't know if it's not really hurting it, I guess,
Smallest of
but
Mars's
it's not really
two
helping
moons
it either.
and the
Does it make sense?
furthest
Like
from
it
the
just
mother
kind of feels
planet.
like
Many believe the
question-
moon
it
used to
kinda,
belong to a surrounding asteroid belt and was eventually
brings up
captured
the
by
question
Mars's
to the audience
orbit.
of was it
Deimos
intentional
has two
or not? And
craters,
so
Swift and Voltaire.
if you were
The
going ultra
craters were named
cartoony,
after
having
two
it stretch
authors
back and anticipate
whom
and then dart out
speculated
would
the
be,
moon's
would be
existence
neat.
long
But I think
ago.
right now it just kind
This
of
is the
feels like a
smallest
twitch in
of
the camera at
Mars's
the
two
end.
moons
So I
and the
consider like either
furthest from
slowing
the
that
mother
down
planet.
or
Many believe the moon
taking
used to
out the
belong to a
dart away.
surrounding asteroid belt and was eventually
Otherwise, this
captured
one
by
actually was
Mars's
working really
orbit.
good. Take another
Deimos
listen
has
to
two
your audio.
craters, Swift
Again,
and
I
Voltaire.
heard audio
The
errors
craters were named
on a
after
whole
two
bunch of
authors
them.
whom
You did a
speculated
pretty
the
good job of
moon's
keeping everything in
existence
the
long
visible
ago.
range. I think that we could have
This
toned
is
it
the
down on
smallest
some
of
of these here at
Mars's
the
two
beginning.
moons
It
and the
felt like it got
furthest
maybe a
from the
touch
mother
big,
planet.
but not
Many
bad.
believe the moon used to belong to
Okay,
a
so let's
surrounding
open up
asteroid belt
the next
and
one,
was
which
eventually
is Alondra. Choose which is best. I honestly couldn't tell much of a difference, so I'll just grab one. I wasn't for sure what the difference was, like if you had made a specific change on it or if it was a compression change. So okay,
Io is the
there's the first thing. I think we just got this giant overpowering moon that just hits us in the face, and then
size of the Earth's moon. and is the third largest moon of Jupiter.
Then we just kind
It
of
is
get this
the only
ping pong
moon with
of
active
this moon back and
volcanoes,
forth,
more than
and then it gets a
150 in
little too
total.
big right there again. So let's watch the beginning of
Io.
it.
Io is the size of the Earth's moon and is the third largest
So it
moon of
almost goes out
Jupiter.
of range there, and
It
then
is the only moon with active
back.
volcanoes.
It's also kind of weird to me that it's glowing red. I don't remember that showing up as clearly in the render on the dome. So that doesn't bother me too bad if it doesn't show up too strongly. I know the idea is to try to give it a little bit of an atmosphere. The thing that does kind of bother me is I can see highlights on the moon, and so that implies that it's shiny, which probably isn't. So I would probably tone down the gloss on that, or I don't know which shader you're using, but I mean I'd definitely tone down the specularity on this so it doesn't shine as much. Let's go ahead and move on. And I think that this just gets really big. I mean, like in the dome, that was like so big and in our face, and just kind of bounces back and forth. I think it would just be nice if we just had sort of a slower push across the screen. So keep
More than
playing.
150 in total. Some of
So
the
this
lava
shot
flows
here
rival Earth's
was
lakes
strange
and
because we
oceans
just
in
kind of zoom
size.
into the stars and
Sulfur substances
like we're
and
not
other
really
materials.
even. I don't know. Sorry, this is
Io.
not doing a great job.
Io
of,
is the size of the Earth's
backtracking
moon
on stuff.
and
Actually, I
is
could
the
probably make this
third
bigger.
largest moon of Jupiter. It is the only moon with volcanoes, more than 150 in total.
Okay, so yeah, we
Some
just
of the
kind of push
lava
into
flows
the
rival Earth's
stars.
lakes
So I don't
and
know what we're
oceans in
focusing on there,
size.
and
Sulfur substances.
it has a lot of comments there that I think could be okay, so it doesn't let me rewind it on this one for some reason. Let's go ahead and play it again and listen to what it
Io.
says.
Io is the size of the Earth's moon
Size of the Earth's
and is
moon.
the third largest moon of Jupiter.
Third largest moon of
It
Jupiter.
is the only moon with active volcanoes.
It's the only moon with active volcanoes. So I think that those three statements, we could all see that while we're looking at it. Again, too big. I'd probably make it about half this size, like right around and through here. So let's listen to what she says during the point where we're zooming in on the stars.
More than 150 in total.
More than 150 in total.
Some of the lava flows rival Earth's lakes and oceans in size.
Some of the lava flows rival Earth's lakes and oceans in size. So we hear those two facts as we're zooming in on the stars. So first, we re-recorded that line because based off of his comments on the feedback for the text, he said that that's not actually true. Like it's actually not even the size of the Pacific Ocean. So there's probably not lava flows the size of the ocean. So we re-recorded that line. So you need to replace that line. And I feel like this is just kind of like a placeholder because you didn't know what to show there. So I think we need to kind of come up with something we're showing, and it may be that we just cut to the lava flow early. And put this one maybe. No, I think we need to drop this one because this is just zooming in on the stars. We don't really see anything informative on this one.
In size.
Okay, so I know this didn't turn out the way you wanted. I think that what we're going to have to do is play with the. Let me open up Maya. And so this is going to be something that multiple people are going to have to deal with to get this ground plane issue. So let's look at how we can address that. Go ahead and create a plane, right? Scale this up. Okay, this may take forever. Okay, I think it's just taking a second to start up. I have my grid. Let's give us a few soft select mountains here, just so we have something to look at. Alright. So a couple people had like little things like this that they wanted to show, right? And so we're panning along on this object. Hit 3. Panning along on this planet. So we need our view to be set to 2K. Right? So we got this square view. And so we know that this is the center again. Center crisscrossy. So we know that really what we're going to be seeing is this range here, right? And so we got to sort of get our camera sort of lined up for that, okay? And so it may be something like this, but what we can do is I can now select my camera and I can play with the focal length a little bit, right? And we're going to get a little bit more of this exaggeration. And that exaggeration, because of the focal length, if I'm looking upward a little bit, is going to aim it inward, right? So I may be overly exaggerating this, right? But you know, we could do something like this. Now this is my perspective camera, so let me actually just set that back to something like 50, where it's not really that important. Create a new camera in here where we can play with the way this camera will look, right? And so what I would probably do, I'll double up my camera here, set this to my new camera 1, so I can see what this camera is going to look like. I'm getting this, right? Pick up my camera, move it back. I'm going to change my focal length on this camera to something like, something crazy, like 13 or something, right? And then if I tilt this camera back, you see what I'm doing? I'm kind of looking up at the sky. And so now as we go in, you'll see that this mountain is kind of leaning inward. Whereas if I look at it here, it's leaning straight up, right? And so we can keep playing with this a little bit more if we wanted to. I could do that. I could do I guess let's go ahead and stop there. Maybe if tilted it back a little further than I would want. Tilt it forward again. And then we could keep pushing this down to see how extreme we get. Okay, and so so we're getting these really crazy lens lengths, right? And so now as we push through, you'll see that all of this feels like it's kind of going out to the side. Like what if I went really crazy here? 1. Right. That's going to start feeling a little bit like fisheye, right? And if I hit render, we're on the other frame. Find it. There it is. Can't really see it that well. Look at my alpha. You can kind of see that it's kind of pointing inward this way. And so I think that we could do something with that. I probably wouldn't take it all the way down to 1, but you could probably do something like that to really get a different camera, right? And than what we're just seeing by default. And it's going to kind of wrap around it now. This is kind of a fake that we're doing on this, but you can kind of see the edge flows there. I'm going to take this down to something a little more reasonable, maybe 5. Oh, it's the wrong thing, isn't it? 5. And so we can see a little bit more. The problem with it is the sort of the angle of the camera view is probably getting some weird normal issues. So the material. Let's do a new blend. Let's see if we get anything good on here. Okay. So yeah, we're getting some issues with the color there, so we may have to play around with that. And some of that's just going to be in the normals because of how sharp we're looking at that at the angle. So I mean, even something like this would help a little. So you know, let's play around with that a little bit and just see what we can get as different results in our renders. And I think that will help a lot of people and some of the issues that they're having with their angles. So let's get this back up and finish watching it. So This isn't looking terrible. It's feeling a little computer generated, mainly because these just feel like they got a Lambert on them. These just feel like they have a blend on them. So I feel like they need more more texturing on them. Um,
Sulfur substances and other material
and
erupt from
then
the
there's the
volcanoes
obvious where
and
we
travel
go
300
into
miles.
a mountain, and that's just we just need to work on the camera on that. I think this shot goes on way too long. I think this shot maybe needs to go on for maybe 5 seconds. Um, it's not carrying enough weight, and I feel like it needs to be talking when we're talking about the lava flows, so it's coming in a little late as well. And so what that means is you're talking about sulfur
Miles high.
substances.
Jupiter's magnetic field
So
strips
and so now we're talking about Jupiter's magnetic field stripping stuff out of the
up to 1 ton of this material every second.
up to 1 ton of the material every second.
Io generates 400.
And then we get this, so it's just Jupiter kind of overpowering us from above. And then Io is trying to orbit it, but you're kind of just animating it in straight lines, which means what it does is it dips in and out of the frame.
400,000 volts of electricity from its orbit
So we see it
across
kinda dip
Jupiter's
in and out of
magnetic
there.
field.
And that's because if we're
and
watching
causes
the actual
lightning in
video
Jupiter's
of it,
upper
what's happening
atmosphere.
here, you're just kind of animating it along the perimeter. And
Io.
so that would be a pretty easy thing
Io
to
is
fix,
the
with just
size
like
of the
grouping
Earth's
it at the very
moon
center of
and
Jupiter,
is the third
rotating
largest
it around,
moon of Jupiter.
like rotating
It's the
that
only
group
moon
around
with
it.
active volcanoes.
So there's a couple of different
more
ways
than
we can solve that. And if
150
you
in
have
total.
issues with that, come talk to me. And
Some of the
I can help
lava
you figure that
flows
out. But I
rival
think that
Earth's
there just
lakes
needs to be
and
more
oceans in
interesting video
size.
in that
Sulfur
shot.
substances
Like it
and
just,
other
there's not,
material erupt from the volcanoes and
there's
travel
something about it
300
just
miles
stripping out
high.
this material out of
Jupiter's magnetic field strips
the
up to
eruptions
1
from the
ton of
planet,
this material every
and
second.
all we're looking at is Jupiter.
Io
And
generates
so it needs something, like, just
400,000
something to
volts of
show us that
electricity
visually,
from its
even if it's just
orbit
like a little like
across Jupiter's magnetic field
2D
and causes lightning in
infographic
Jupiter's
floating over
upper
top of the
atmosphere.
planet is like, maybe we have
Io.
let's try this. Like, what if you had can I just drag this? Come on. Well, okay, this will work. So let's say what you had on that shot instead was, so talking about instead of where we're circling around the planet, what if you had instead Jupiter here, Io here, not moving, and we just had this little like visualization, even if it's a little 2D sprite of like these eruptions happening, and then Jupiter stripping those out of it with this like magnetic field. Right? So I mean, just something simple like that. We got Jupiter over here being all wavy lined, and so just that little information is something that you could do with practically a still rendered image and some 2D information that is a little bit more advanced of illustration than this. And that just gives the audience that information visually, because right now this shot and the shot where we're zooming into the stars is not giving them anything visually. And so we need to work on those pieces pretty significantly. Okay. Crap, I didn't mean to close that. Let me get my dome tester back out. Run. Seth. With warp and sound. Let's switch that. Okay, so it may take it a minute to get it up and going.
Iapetus.
Iapetus.
Discovered by Giovanni Cassini in
And of course, we're looking at this
1671,
mirror. Try to remember that.
Iapetus
I know
is the
that's
third largest of
disorienting.
Saturn's moons.
I actually think this
It
came
is
out
best
really
known for
pretty
its
good.
dramatic two-tone
Feel a little
coloration
bit faceting
and
on the moon,
abstract
so I
shape.
think we need a little bit more smoothing
In
on that.
2004, the Cassini orbiter discovered a massive equatorial ridge that wrapped the majority of the way around the planet. Reaching heights of over 12 miles high, Iapetus boasts one of the largest mountain ranges in the solar system.
So I'm just watching it.
In comparison, this range is over twice the elevation of Mount Everest, Earth's tallest peak.
So right now my
Although
biggest,
this ridge is one of Iapetus' most distinguished features, scientists are still unsure how it was created.
So right now this one is looking pretty good to me. I think that there's just a little bit of cleanup you need to do to kind of make some stuff feel a little more finalized, because you got quite a bit going on in here. animation wise, and most of it looks pretty good.
Iapetus.
Like this zoom in here feels pretty good.
Disco-
I don't. Let's get in here a little bit
Discovered by
closer.
Giovanni Cassini in 1671, Iapetus is the third largest of Saturn's moons. It is best
So,
known for its
I
dramatic
think again, I
two-tone.
think this needs to be slightly smoother. I think the render quality on everything needs to be upped a little bit. This feels a little like the lighting hasn't been thought of very much, and the materials haven't been thought of as much. So I think it needs a little bit more work in that.
Two-tone coloration.
So like there's no atmosphere on Saturn, and I think Saturn is one of the gas giants. I mean, there would be a little bit more of an atmosphere going on here. This feels like kind of a solid ring. Some of these craterings feel a little not there. Like there's no bump on this or anything. So you have a pretty good
An abstract shape.
model,
In
especially once we.
2004,
I like how
the
this kind
Cassini
of comes
orbiter
in.
discovered a massive
It kind of speeds up
equatorial
right there.
ridge
So like,
that
see if we
wrapped
can
the
pull back.
majority
Thanks for no rewind, machine.
Iapetus.
So when Cassini
Discovered
comes in,
by
it kind of feels like it
Giovanni
speeds up a
Cassini
little
in
bit. So I would pace that. It doesn't
1671,
have to make it all the way around the moon
Iapetus is
before we
the
cut.
third largest of
Um,
Saturn's moons. It is best known for
So
its
yeah,
dramatic
here's got some
two-tone
bumping. It
coloration
feels like it needs a
and
little bit more
abstract
here.
shape.
And also find out if Iapetus
In
has a an atmosphere. Because if so, it needs a little bit of an atmosphere, and we just need to smooth it again so we don't get this faceting on there. I think you may have done some of the modeling in this in Mudbox, and if so, you probably have a you probably have a higher res version of that. So I think that like it's really just some spheres moving around in the scene. I think I would just go ahead and bring in a higher res version of it, because especially when we get in here close to
In
it,
2004,
like this just feels
the
like it's
Cassini
really low res.
orbiter discovered a
And as like Cassini starts to go around there, it feels like it speeds up. And so I think that just maybe cut it a little earlier as it's getting close to it. Maybe this is even where it ends, and so it doesn't have to
Covered
make
a
it all
massive
the way around.
equatorial
And, like it
ridge.
just gets so much smaller so quickly. Now this is a really cool shot that works really well, I think. I would almost pull it down a little lower, but I like that we're just kind of going over the surface of this planet, looking at this stuff. Your
ridge
normal
that
looks
wrapped the
pretty
majority of the way around
okay,
the
I
planet.
guess. But the problem is like these mountains just feel very faceted. So this is where I'm like, if this is even a 10,000 polygon model, like I mean, Maya could probably handle. It would slow it down a little bit, but it could probably handle up to about 1,000,000. I would probably aim closer to maybe 100,000 or so for this moon, and just go in there, get a higher res version of it, stub it in here in exactly the same location as this moon, hide this moon, but make this moon the parent of the new higher res moon, and just re-render. I mean, you're pretty much done there. I think your lighting, though, it feels like there's no real fall off or shadowing on anything. It's got a little bit here, so I definitely think we need a little bit more working on lighting. But, I mean, this is rendering okay. I have a feeling that there's a chance that this is actually just my software, and part of that was probably you just ran out of render time. So that's the big thing right now. Is like this is actually got a
Reaching
lot of
heights
really
of over
interesting
12 miles high,
motion in it. It just feels
Iapetus
like it
boasts
gets
one of the largest
a little
mountain
too
ranges
simple.
in the
I
solar
actually really like
system.
this shot. I would consider making it
In
a little
comparison,
lower.
This range is over twice the
So it's like
elevation of
instead
Mount
of
Everest.
instead of being this shape that it's like taking up of the screen, I just sort of try to extend it out and get a little closer to it, so it's more like that shape. And that may even be widening your camera angle again, just to get sort of this more elongated, like we're going across the moon, and here's the mountain range as we go on through that. So that would just be a slight camera angle change. The biggest thing is just this faceting that's happening on the moon, though. So I've been going on for about 30 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and stop on this one, and we'll pick it back up on the next one.